Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hello. Hey. Welcome back to Conversations with Iris. You all heard that right. We are officially rebranding. The podcast is now Conversations with Iris, and I'm so excited about this chapter. Now, don't worry. My hubby, Ronnie Keith, is still very much part of the magic. He's just taking more of a behind the scenes role these days. So he's still going to be around, co produce, be my agent, my manager, all these great things. And of course, he'll be joining me for some of those good old conversations y'all love. We're not going anywhere, y'all. We're just simply evolving, which we all love, right? We love growth. Thank you all so much for the outpouring of love, messages, and support as I step more into the host chair. This journey has just been truly ignited a passion for podcasting, and I'm just very excited to go. I'm just getting started. Now, before we dive into today's episode, which I'm super excited, and yes, we got an absolutely amazing guest lineup today. I want to take a moment to shout out some of those incredible listeners turning in or just tuning in across the globe or around the world. First off, I want to give a shout out to Bimini, Bahamas. Y'all always show up with the island vibes. I love it. And I feel the sunshine every time I see you on the list. Next shout out, I want to say Munich. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Munich, Germany. Thank you for rocking with us from the Bavaria. Y'all keep it classy and consistent. So I appreciate that. We also got some love across the pond here with London, England. I see you out there with that bold UK energy. And finally, I want to give a big hug to our friends in Istanbul. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Turkey. Your support is bridging cultures and conversations, and we love that. Seriously, y'all, this global family is growing and just glowing. So I'm just so grateful for all those downloads and tuning in. So thank you so much. And today, I'm very excited with our guest that's going to be joining us. And I'm just really thrilled to today's episode is about to get a little spicy. And I mean, and that I totally mean that in the best way. We're diving into the world of reality, the TV, the drama, the surprises, the plot twists, and yes, the unexpected love connections. But more than that, we're taking a whole new approach. We're going to talk, we're going to get serious, and we're going to talk about just courage overall, about shaking up your life, saying, why not? And stepping into just something totally unexpected. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next guest, the bold, the beautiful, and real Miss Lannette West. And I believe you are on mute. Hold on. Can you hear me, Lannette? Oh no.
Okay, I just unmuted myself.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. I could remove that. Don't worry. So
Okay, it reminds me of work. That happens at work at least once a day.
So yes, welcome to the show, Lannette.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate that sweet introduction. That was really nice. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you so much for joining. And you got a lot of people talking from your time on MILF Manor to your personal journey. That's just it's just inspirational, to be honest with you. And before we get into the wild world of reality TV, I just want us to get a little bit of personal here with you. I would like to unpack a little bit about you. Who is Lannette West? And when the cameras are off, that's what we want to know, right? And how do you go from working in IT for over 27 years and just stepping in front of the world of just reality television? How do you do that?
It's a very unlikely path, I'll be honest. It was incredibly spontaneous and unexpected. I'm just a country girl from Western North Carolina. I've lived in North Carolina my whole life, except for a couple of years when I went to DC in my 20s. And I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I settled here in the Triangle ever since. And I'm just a pretty, I don't want to say simple person, but, I'm a mom first and foremost, and a woman, and used to be a wife.
Amen.
No more of that. We won't do that again. But I was with my ex for like 20 years, but it was a great experience. I got two beautiful, healthy children out of it. So I am eternally grateful for that. But yeah, I literally was just looking through my Facebook messages, and periodically I would go through my message requests, which are, not your friends messaging you.
Yeah.
And there was a scout named Jessica who had reached out, and I immediately thought it was a scam. She was like, we're working on a project for a reality TV show. We thought you might be a good fit. Would you be available to chat with me? And I guess I was just bored, and I'm incredibly impulsive on a normal day anyway. So I was like, sure. I was like, let's see what this scam is about. Let's see how long it takes for her to ask me for my credit card number, right? So we started chatting, and I was like, oh my God, this might be real. But I was still very skeptical.
Mm.
And we had about a 5-minute conversation on the phone. I was really impressed at the level of complexity of the new scammers. I was like, wow, they really go all out. And then she put me in touch with a casting director at E1 Entertainment in LA. And
Look at
that's when I
that.
started realizing, oh my God, this might be real.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and it was incredibly flattering at first, I'll be honest, because I'm like, what in the world do y'all want with me?
Ooh.
Um, and so it was a very humbling experience too. And did a quick Zoom audition. I just put on a sexy dress and put on more makeup than I've ever put on in my life, and got in front of the camera and tried to be as animated yet as genuine as possible. And interestingly enough, a year before I was cast in MILF Manor season 2, unbeknownst to me and my son, we had auditioned for MILF Manor season 1.
Oh, wow.
And if you're familiar with season 1, the twist is that the MILFs were dating each other's sons.
Oh my God. Yes, I heard that. I
Yes,
heard
the
that.
shock factor is definitely there, right? Well, because I had a 20-year-old something son, very attractive. And fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, we didn't make the cut. And I'm a bit grateful for that because I'm not sure I would have navigated that so well, nor would my son. So,
Oh, so
but
it
I
wasn't that time, right? It wasn't that time, but season 2 came.
Exactly. And I did not put two and two together. I had not heard of MILF Manor other than just probably what, everybody else had heard, that there was this shocking TLC reality show that was, kind of distasteful and vulgar. And so I didn't connect it at all. And I was told the show was Northern Love. So it was sort of a last minute thing. I was in the hotel about 24 hours before we started filming, and the producer came in and said, "Don't you want to know what show you're on?" And I kind of laughed and
Oh
said,
my
"What do you
God.
mean?" I said, "I'm on Northern Love, the reality dating show." And he goes, "No, you're on MILF Manor season 2." And I was just like, oh, it took me a minute to process that. And my first thought was, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like, I can't do
Oh,
this. And to the credit of the producer, they kind of talked me off the ledge. And by that point, I was so heavily invested. I just threw caution to the wind and said, hey, what the hell? Let's
why
see what
not? Right? It takes like that little courage. You were like, I
happens.
just got to do this. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh my God. And you were working in IT
Mhm.
for 27 years. Was this a company that was very corporate type driven? And, you were
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
had enough.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I work for an exceptional company though. It's a Fortune 500, and I did fill out a conflict of interest inquiry with HR before I left to film the show, because I wanted to make sure that, there
Good.
weren't any issues. And they told me no issue, because I was compensated for the show, right? And so they said no issue. You just cannot say the name of the show, the company you work for,
Right.
and you can't name the industry because it's a specific IT industry. And so I agreed to that, obviously. And that's why on the show, I'm called an account manager, because it was very generic.
Oh,
Um,
wow. You got to do
yeah.
what you got to do. I mean, hey, girl, you didn't do anything wrong, right? So,
Well, absolutely. I was being very precautious because my job is obviously very important to me. And they were very supportive. My immediate management team, they kind of got a kick out of it. And some of my coworkers mentioned it, but for the most part, I'll be honest, people just didn't say anything at all. I think they
really,
were a little stunned, and because it's a heavily male dominated field, and
it
I would
is.
say conservative. So, um,
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I'm so glad to know about your perspective there. And how long was it like after they told you that you're going to be on this show? How long were you like filming and how was that?
Mhm.
Like me, like I don't know, we're girls, right? And we're like constantly worried, oh my God, people are gonna see this. And but is my makeup okay? Is
Mhm.
my hair fine? Like how long was that? And were you worried about those little things that for some people, they're like, ah, don't worry about that. You look beautiful. No, they don't
No.
understand.
Right, because you're like, there's, 5 cameras at any given moment capturing every angle, right? And it was funny because during one of the challenges, I had my back to several cameras and I turned around and looked at the cameraman and I said, "Do not get my ass. Whatever you do, do not get my ass." And they were like, "Okay, Lynette, shut up."
Oh my God. And I have to say, you are very beautiful. You are a
You're
beautiful
sweet.
lady.
Thank
I saw your pictures and when you had came up and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. She's so beautiful. So I can see why you gave them a warning there. So
you. Well, I was the heaviest I'd ever been in my life, not pregnant on that show. And of course, it's, documented forever. But it was a great experience in that I was exposed to other women, my age, older, younger, that were really fit and really committed to their physical health. And it really motivated me because when I came back from filming, I lost 30 pounds. I worked out with a trainer 3 days a week and I really got into the best shape of my life. I looked the best I'd ever looked in my life. Now, of course, I haven't sustained that because consistency is so hard. But
wow.
that was one of the silver linings that came out of the show for sure.
Oh my God. And tell me for you, from your perspective, we have so many people out there that are just, I think, naive or just ignorant. They don't know what reality TV
Mhm,
is, right?
mhm,
Some folks love it, some
mhm.
side-eyed it, but what I could tell you, I could sense what pulled you into it. But for you, what does that mean to you? Did it change your perspective after being part of it?
It did, and I was rather naive and ignorant going into it. I had not really watched a lot of reality TV. I mean, I'd watched some of the bigger shows like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, things like that, but I had never really invested in it because I had always struggled because I would watch the people and I would feel such compassion for them and sometimes embarrassment for them. And so it's painful to watch, especially when they would have really gut wrenching or emotional scenes or issues. So I just
Mm,
I relate to people too much and it hurts my feelings, so I don't like to watch that kind of thing. So I was really kind of going into it raw, and I was delusional on some level because I was thinking, I haven't been successful in dating, my marriage fell apart, maybe this is the universe's way of helping me find my guy, and
yeah.
maybe not on the show, right? But maybe somehow through the show, through the exposure on the show. And so I was hopeful in that respect. I now have a better sense of reality than I did back then. But who knows? I mean, things still may happen. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So, but yeah, I knew really nothing about the process. I was really impressed with just how professional and how well run the whole thing was. I mean, it is a full scale production.
Wow.
There are people there, there's caterers there are cameramen, there are producers, there are PAs. There were these girls that were helping us like do laundry and take care of like logistics of the house, and it was a massive effort. I was really impressed, and everyone was incredibly relatable and kind and supportive, and there wasn't as much manipulation by the producers as I think some people may assume. Because,
Oh,
yeah, I can tell you from my perspective anyway, my words were my words. Nobody ever even insinuated what I should say.
good.
Yeah, and now I will tell you there was some guidance for sure. A producer may come up and say, "Hey, Lynette, I see Anthony's in the realty room with Rebecca. You might want to go check on that." And of course, they knew exactly they were going to get a reaction out of me, and I knew
Mm.
something was up because two cameramen were following me. So, and sure enough, I walked in and they were in a less than platonic situation, and they got the reaction they wanted because I was
Yeah.
like, "Fuck this," excuse my language, but
No, be yourself. You could curse, you could do whatever you want on my show, girl. It's all good. I want all of you, all raw of you.
Oh, good. Okay, I can do that.
Yes, yes, you
Um,
could be wrong. So,
yeah, so it was not quite as manipulated or planned or scripted as I honestly thought that it would or could be. And I
mm,
think people are kind of surprised by that. Now there are probably some things that were more generated by the producers than the participants themselves, but there was always so much drama going on and being generated by each of us. They really didn't have to do much of that.
oh wow, a lot of fighting, would you say?
Yeah, there were some definite conflicts, and I'm the youngest of five, so I was always the peacekeeper kind of in my family, which we had a very unusual dynamic in the family. But so I was very much in that role of trying to keep the peace, trying to negotiate, trying to bridge gaps and things like that. I don't like confrontation, but there was a lot of that. And some days it was more amped up than others, and it always made me uncomfortable. But I understand that that's life. Not everybody gets along, and not everybody addresses things the way you would or you would want them to, and you just have to kind of accept them for where they are.
Yeah, and I love that, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. And I just want to take it back to what you had mentioned. You were allowed to be yourself authentically, right?
Absolutely.
Because when you grow up like me, I would have to say I'm a millennial. I grew up in the
Mhm.
'80s, and our first little taste of reality TV was what was it with Paris Hilton? I forgot, The Good Life, I think it's called, or
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
and
Is it
yes, I
Good
know. I know
Life?
what you're
Real
talking.
Life?
Yes, yeah, the simple life or something. I
Simple
can't remember.
Life. There you go. Oh my god.
Yeah,
And then I was really into it, like Love
right.
and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of
Mm,
Atlanta. Oh my god. All those good shows that you could think
mhm.
about. Charm School, A Flavor of Love. Come on now. They were
Like, just like
everywhere. But what really, like, I was so bummed that I found out, are these really scripted or are they not? So again, it seems like every show is a little bit different, but I'm glad to know that they allowed you to be yourself, and they didn't encourage you, like, hey, you should do, like, they were like constantly behind you, because it felt like, for example, like Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, great show. I mean, I think all the
Mhm.
guests are wonderful. They're beautiful ladies or whatever, and guys too. But I was just like, I don't know. When they did the reunion, it seemed very scripted to me, you know?
Staged. Yeah.
Very staged, and
Yeah.
it's just like I appreciate that perspective. Like I was like,
Mhm.
because that was my question. I'm like, do they really? Is it really scripted or is it not? You know?
Right. Well, I think what they did a good job of was just creating an environment where things could really, where the drama could flourish. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, from that perspective, it was scripted because there were challenges, there were organized activities that inevitably allowed our personalities to bloom. Let's put it that way. But I can honestly say no one ever told me, Lynette, go do this or say this or do, I mean, there was always, some gentle guidance just to keep things interesting and popping, I'm sure. But for me personally, I didn't receive any explicit instructions or anything.
That's
There
good
was,
to
there
know.
were encouraging words, and depending on what kind of questions they would ask you, it would determine, the kinds of things you would say in your little breakout interviews. But they called them OTFs, on the fly, because like
Mm.
something would happen and they would be like, we want you outside to interview you, and so then you would go out and like give your feedback or your insight on whatever it is that just happened.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it was a really special experience for sure.
Wow. And in the show you had mentioned that they want that raw like emotion, or you went outside, get a phone call or whatsoever. What was
Mhm.
one of those wildest moments, or in terms of most memorable moments for you on the show? Like and then with that, I want to know what surprised you, like,
Mhm.
about this experience, like from in terms of growth, right?
Yeah. I think the one thing that stuck out the most was probably the first conflict, and it really didn't involve me. It involved a couple of the other participants, Barbie, and she got into it with another lady on the show, Crystal, and there was alcohol involved. So anytime you got alcohol, God only knows what's
Of
going to
course.
happen, you know.
The
And
truth comes out, right?
exactly. You get the unabridged versions of people. But it was really interesting because they had a confrontation, and Barbie really stuck up for herself. And I was impressed because the other lady was a bit intimidating. Like I just kind of stayed out of her way. I was like, I'm
Really?
not
Oh,
making her
wow.
mad. But Barbie, gave it right back to her and threw a glass down in the middle of the bar and shattered this glass. It was very dramatic. And that was like very, very early in filming. And I remember thinking, God, if these first couple of days are any indication how this is going to go, the next 3 weeks are going to be wild. And
Wow.
inevitably they were.
Mm,
Mhm.
But it added to that fire, right? That's what they wanted, you know?
Yeah, they definitely did a great job with the casting for sure.
And let me ask you, Lynette, in
Hmm.
all full transparency,
Hmm.
you had mentioned that you were previously married.
Hmm.
I'm curious to know, like, how many years was that? And do you think that because you went through that, because I feel like when people go through a breakup or a divorce or whatsoever, it like kind of splits your soul, right? Do
Hmm.
you feel like that empowered you? Like, I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Like, I could conquer anything. I feel like women go through that. Would you say that happened to you too?
Yeah, to some extent, there was definitely an evolution because I got to my early 40s and I was like, is this it? This can't be it. My children were getting older. My son was getting ready to, graduate from high school.
Yeah.
And I had been with my ex-husband. I met him in college at UNC, and we had our son kind of early. I was 24, and we didn't get married. There was no discussion of marriage. I
Mm,
never wanted to be married, frankly. My parents divorced when I was very young, and it was a war of the roses kind of thing. And so marriage just wasn't something that I aspired to or that I found any real value in. And so I was very independent. I always had my own money, my own career, my own everything. So I really wasn't eager to share that with
yeah.
anybody, even the
Independent.
father of
Yeah.
my kids. Yeah. And so we didn't get married until I was actually 6 months pregnant with my second child, Grace. She was born 9.5 years after my first son. And so, yeah, that's a little unusual because normally it's the woman like pressuring the guy to get married. But in our situation, it was the other way around. So I relented and we just went to the Justice of the Peace one day and got married. And we chose Cinco de Mayo so that I could actually remember the date easily.
I love it. And you can't go wrong because that day you always get margaritas. Woo woo.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm going to need a lot of alcohol to get through this. And I knew going into it that I shouldn't be marrying him, but I was like, what the hell? I got 2 kids with him. I've kind of made my bed. I must lie in it. And I
Yeah.
really, as sad as this is to admit, I'll be transparent. I pretty much made the decision when I got pregnant with my daughter that I would more or less just hang up my happiness. I wasn't happy with him. It was in a very abusive, physically, emotionally, every way you can imagine. So I knew that
Mm.
it wasn't where I needed to be, but I felt like I brought these kids into the world. They didn't choose to be here. They didn't ask to be here, and that I had to step up and make whatever sacrifices I need to make this work. And so I literally made the decision, screw my happiness. This isn't about me. This is about the
Yeah.
kids.
Mhm.
I'm going to do everything I think a good wife and a good mom should be doing. And those are the things that I absolutely obsessed myself with. And I spent many years working very hard and taking care of the kids. My daughter did competitive cheerleading, which is a very demanding
Busy
support.
mom for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. So I was able to kind of lose myself in that stuff. But then once the kids got older, I had made the decision. I just wanted to get my son through high school. And I figured once I got my son through high school, I could leave him. And
Mm.
my son graduated in May of 2015, and I left him July 4th on Independence Day in 2015, a couple months after my son graduated. So I felt like I met my obligation. I did what I was supposed to do. And I really started a huge transformation at that point once I was on my own. Some good things happened and some bad things happened, but I've learned so much about who I am and what I'm capable of. I don't regret any of it, even the
Oh,
ugly stuff.
that is awesome. And thank you for sharing with that for someone that may be listening to this and needed to hear that, right? Because it takes a lot of
Mhm.
courage. I mean,
It
you did
does.
something completely different. And I must say, you've been one of the fans' favorite. Like, what do you think connected you so much with people watching from home? Like, because, girl,
Mhm.
I gotta say, you brought fire, pizzazz, and heart to that screen.
Oh,
Tell
thank
me.
you. Thank you. That is so sweet. I think what it was, especially when I left the show, because I left of my own volition. It was episode 9 out of 12. So I wasn't there for the final days of filming. I just pretty much had a breakdown because the guy that I was, really vibing with and connecting with was telling me one thing and doing something else behind my back. And what happened was
Oh
it
man.
stirred up all the things from my marriage, the unresolved issues, the cheating, the lying, the deception. And, there was a history of that in that relationship that I had with my ex-husband. So, it stirred up all those feelings of not feeling like I was enough. Like no one's ever going to choose me. I'm not good enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm
Oh,
not enough.
wow.
I'm not lovable. I'm so broken. No one's ever going to love me. And I literally had like this emotional breakdown. I don't even really remember that. I know the cameras were there, but I remember thinking, I just don't give a shit. Like I've got to say this. And I was so emotional and I was crying and my throat was like contracted so I could barely speak. And I was just real. I just said what I felt. And some of it was ugly. Some of it wasn't very pretty. And I think people appreciated that from the perspective of, well, it may not be right, but it's real.
Yeah.
And you really can't fault people for being who they are because there are reasons why they are the way they are. And, I don't claim to be perfect. I'm incredibly flawed. I've made lots of mistakes in my life, but I value those as much, if not more, than my successes because that's where I've learned the most about who I am and what I'm capable of doing.
And that's beautifully said. I love it that you said that. I feel like as a woman, especially someone,
Mhm.
I'm a woman over my 40s, and I feel like there's always opportunity for growth, right?
Absolutely.
There is so much opportunity for growth. Your life doesn't stop when you turn 40. I'm proud to say that to my audience members. I'm over 40, but you know what?
Mhm.
There's so much more to life.
Oh,
We're just getting started, right?
oh, I would say there's so much more. I would say your life accelerates starting in your
Yes.
40s. It really
Amen.
does. I mean, 40s were the biggest decade of growth for me personally. And let's talk about the hormones for a minute. I mean,
Oh my
Jesus.
God. Yes.
I felt
They
like what
come
I
at you
imagined.
like a shit of bricks for
Yes.
real.
I was like, God, is this what 18-year-old boys feel like? Like I was obsessed with sex. Like that's all I thought about. And it's all hormonal. It's all very typical. It's all
Oh,
very,
yeah.
perimenopausal. But
It
I
like hits you out of nowhere. You're like, "Oh my
yes,
God, that's so hot. Let's
yes.
take care of that."
Well, let me warn you, once you go through menopause, which I'm on the other side of now, it all quiets back down. You return to some semblance of sanity.
Oh, man.
But it was
Oh.
fun. I'm not gonna lie. I learned a lot. I did a lot too. So it was quite an experience.
Oh, and let me ask you, your
Mhm,
son,
mhm.
what did he learn from this? Like, from the show? Like, have you had a chance to talk to him and say, "Hey, what are your overall thoughts?"
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Both of my children have been somewhat, I don't want to say dismissive because there's a negative connotation to that word, but they both were just like, yeah, whatever, mom. Like, this is just another crazy thing my mom does. Like nothing surprises them anymore. And they were both very supportive. In fact, my daughter encouraged me because at one point I was getting kind of frustrated with the process. And she was like, Mom, just do it. Don't give up on it. Do it. It's kind of
Oh,
cool.
that's sweet. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I'm not even sure that they've really watched it. I don't know that my son has even seen the show. And I know my daughter watched some episodes with her girlfriend, but I'm not sure she finished the show. They're pretty much, I mean, they've got their own lives and their own things going on. They're just kind of rolling their eyes in the background, like, oh God, that's my mom again.
Oh my God. And your
Yeah.
family, how about your family members, like outside family?
Mhm.
Like, how do they react?
Well, most of them were very supportive. If they thought some kind of way about it, they kept it to themselves. So everything was very positive. And if there wasn't anything positive to be said, there was just silence, which is what I appreciated. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want somebody
Yeah.
to come rain on my parade or, oh my God, that's so distasteful. MILF, that's so vulgar. There was none of that. And
Good.
And I don't surround myself even with family members that are that judgmental. I just am like, don't want to hear it. Goodbye. I gravitate away from that. So it was all very, very positive. And like I said, if there was some negativity, it was just met with silence, which is, I think, totally appropriate.
And it's a lot better like that, right? Like, keep your comments to yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. If you don't
Keep
have
it
something nice
moving.
to say, be quiet. Absolutely.
Oh my God, Lynette. And you
Mhm.
talk about self-confidence and being
Mm,
open, and I love staying true. And so
mhm,
now let's talk to that person out there who's listening to this right now,
mhm,
just thinking like, man, I've always wanted to be on TV, but I don't know
mhm,
where to start. Like, what
mhm,
advice would you give someone trying to break into reality or entertainment world? You've been on that side of the spectrum, and it's like
mhm,
you were blessed to, they reached out to you out of nowhere. But how about
mhm,
somebody that's just trying so hard to just be seen? What would you say is
mhm.
the first step they should take?
Well, I would look up the casting agents and the casting directors that are in LA and New York, and they have scouts because that's what found me was a scout. It wasn't an actual casting director
Okay.
because they have these feelers that they put out and they refer them to the casting directors. So I don't know if there's like a magical list of them somewhere, but if anybody has a real interest, I'm more than happy to share, the information I have on particular contacts. I won't do that here, but talk offline. I'm happy to do that, to talk offline with somebody if they're really looking to break into the business, and I would be, thrilled to share with them who I know and what I know.
And what is in store for you? What is next for Lynette? I mean, you seems like you're just getting started, girl. So what's in store for you? Let's talk about that.
Right, thank you. Well, I really feel this push, this calling to do public speaking with mental health advocacy. Not only mental health, but addiction, recovery, childhood trauma, sex abuse. I've been through a lot in my life, and people are usually kind of surprised. I guess I just don't have that worn look.
Mm.
It doesn't look like I've
Or
been to
haggard,
war.
like you think people like that are haggard. I hate that.
Right, or they're bitter or they're unhappy, and I'm trying to give it a different look, a different feel, because there is hope and there is a light on the other side of life's tragedies, and I really feel compelled to give people hope and to help them in those dark moments because I've been there. I get it. I've been suicidal. I've struggled with mental health my entire life, and I just wanted to give people, someone that they could say, oh, wow, okay, well, she's being really open about it. It's not so bad. Why does
Mhm.
everything have to be so negative and stigmatized? I want to normalize the conversations around things that are affecting people every single day because people suffer in silence. And I
Oh
refuse
yeah.
to do that anymore. And so I really feel compelled to do this like speaking tour. I'm doing, some podcast, I'm getting the stories out there. And my goal is to eventually do a regional TED talk and share my stories and share the things I've learned in hopes that I can reach people and give them hope and let them know that this too shall pass.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. That's beautiful. Oh my god. And when
Mhm.
you do have that TED podcast, we're gonna definitely have you back on because I wanna know about that story too.
Absolutely. I'd be happy
Oh,
to share it.
so I have to ask, I'm
Mhm.
gonna be a little nosy.
Oh,
So there are just a little rumor going around that there is a famous rapper,
sure.
that maybe there is like a little romance brewing there in the gutter. Do you have any
Yeah.
comments on that?
Oh yeah, I've spent some time with Wayne. I think he's a great guy. He's an enigma for
A
sure.
genius, by the way.
Oh,
A
beyond,
total genius.
absolutely. Like, oh my God, his rap game, like his woman rap game, like, oh, wow. He speaks
Sick.
in poetry. And I have the voice memos to prove it. Like, I'll go back and listen to them, and they're just awe-inspiring. He told me that my smile turns the light on for the planet.
Oh my god, I love that.
I
That would have stuck with me
know.
forever. That should be your quote, girl.
Oh, I know. Like he had said some of the nicest things that anyone has ever said to me. And I appreciated it because I'm not always the most confident, and I don't always think that, I'm really like the most attractive or desirable person in the world. So just those compliments from him, it was really special, and it really meant a lot to me. And, we didn't date. I mean, dating is such a loose term.
Yeah.
But we've spent some time together, and I've enjoyed his company. I don't really see a long future there. But I consider him a friend, and I hope that, whatever the future holds, that I can continue to call him a friend.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
that's good to know though, because I had to put it out there,
Oh,
girl.
yeah.
I'm not Tina. We gotta know what's the scoop, girl. Tell me how it is.
Right,
Well,
right.
Lynette, I just have to say you've been a whole vibe today. And before
Oh,
we wrap up, I let everyone know. I want to know where people could find you. If we could let our folks know, make sure that they're following your journey and just stay up to date with everything you're working on. Where can people find you?
thank you. I'm on Instagram. That's my primary mode of communication with folks. Feel free to DM me there. I'm at Lannette, and it's a funky spelling, I know. It's LANNETTE.West. And yeah, I'm there daily, and I try to post often, but sometimes work and life gets in the way. But I do post the podcasts like this one. I'll certainly
Oh,
post
thank
so folks
you.
can hear. Absolutely. Yeah. So you can reach me there.
Oh, thank you. And one last thing before we go.
Sure.
Can you drop a little goodbye quote or a word of wisdom for all of our listeners out there, whether they're chasing a dream, healing from something, or just looking for that courage to just step into their next chapter?
You're stronger than you know. And don't regret your mistakes. Don't beat yourself up. There's no shame in that game. Embrace the lessons that life has to offer, learn from them, move on, stay positive, and know that this too shall pass.
Oh, that's beautiful. Lynette, thank you so much for joining. This has been, like I mentioned, a vibe, fun, very truly inspirational. Thank you guys. Thank you, Lynette, for joining. And if you're not already doing so, my listeners, go do and follow her. Just follow her. You won't be disappointed. Thank you, Lynette, for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you. This has been Conversations with Miss Iris.